Chair recognizes Mr. Toth in opposition to the bill.
Thank you, members. Mr. Speaker, the question we have to ask ourselves is why are we trying to pass a bill like this in the Texas House? Are we trying to help homeowners or are we trying to help contractors? Because every time we touch something with licensing and registration, the only people that benefit are contractors. When California did this, the number of claims did not go down. It didn't go up either, though. Simply what happens is if you've got a bad character that is registered, he will get popped, and then the next week, the registration will be in his wife's name, or his son's name, or his uncle's name, or his cousin's name. It does nothing to stop it. But what it does do is it makes it more difficult for young people that have been working for somebody else to start their own company. Because all it takes is rolling up on a job, someone likes you, they give you the deposit, you then take the deposit, go out and buy building materials, and you do a good job for them. And that's really the story of roofers across the state of Texas. Are there a few bad actors? 500 claims, seriously. Last year when we endured Harvey, to say that there are only 500 claims. Now, is that awful for the 500 people that were hurt? Absolutely. But those bad actors are not going to go away because of this. What it will do is it will affect a lot of young people that want to get a start. The $250 is a lot of money to ask from them. All this is meant to be the first step in licensing. Licensing, the homeowner always loses. I have a pool service company. Before licensing was created by this body, the average homeowner in the state of Texas paid $45 to have someone an hour to have someone come out and fix their pool equipment. Today it's $95 an hour. Because of what this body did to consumers, it more than doubled the cost for the consumer on a per hourly basis to have equipment repaired. Ultimately, that is what this goal is. It has been this goal since 2013 when I was here as a freshman. Let's say no to this. Let's make sure that we enable young people the opportunity to get jobs, create their own business, and realize the American dream in Texas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I intend to vote against this bill, and I understand what the author is trying to do here. My concern is that when you look at the bill as a whole, we're creating a new category of individuals, these re-roofing entities, for repairs that are done on values of $500 or more. The concern I have is while this bill tends to or asks to exempt new construction of a roof, if you consider that a contractor could create a roof, if you will, or a structure that has a roof, it's new construction, and let's just say that there's problems with the roof, and the owner or the property owner says, I don't want you to do that work for me anymore because I don't believe you do good workmanship. So they get another roofer. Under the provisions of this bill, we're extending the regulations of government such that now this roofer that didn't think they were considered a re-roofer is going to go do the repairs for this new construction that exceed $500. Now, under the provisions of this bill, that roofing company that did not believe they were a re-roofer would have to have been registered. Otherwise, they now face penalties. So the concern I have is it's well-intended, but my concern is that it's overreaching and that we need to study this more to make sure that we don't have any unintended consequences. And for that reason, I intend to vote no.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Middleton, for what purpose?
Does the gentleman yield?
Gentleman yield for questions?
Yes.
Gentleman
Thank you, Mr. Herrero. We both share a coastal district, so this is obviously a big issue in our area. And I think your district was impacted by Hurricane Harvey just like mine was. And, when you're looking at the bill analysis for this bill, it says, to stop unethical actors from flocking to storm-battered areas. And, I spent a lot of time in neighborhoods that were destroyed in Hurricane Harvey, and what I saw was a lot of out-of-state contractors that came in with the intent to defraud. And I'm just not really seeing anything in this bill that would help with that. That's more of a law enforcement issue, a legal issue of when they intend to defraud people. And I really don't see how this bill would really help with that.
I agree. And let me give you another example. Constituents in my area were defrauded by individuals that posed themselves to be genuine registered roofers, not re-roofers, not any sort of label, but other than just individuals that would go make the repairs. And what they would do is they would say, I believe that it's going to cost you, and they would give them an estimate. Let's assume that it exceeds $500. But in order to start the work, to ensure that you were going to be in line to get your roof repaired sooner than later, they would ask for $500, $300. And these were senior citizens, right? And so they would trust the individual and give $300 or $400. The point that I'm trying to make is, with this bill as written now, because it does not cover anything that it's more than $500, or better yet, it covers only those things that would be $500 or more. All of these senior citizens that paid out $499 to these alleged roofers were defrauded by them. This bill does nothing to protect them.
I think we agree that, that's really the issue, is the situations where people are defrauded, and you and I both care deeply about that and want to stop that behavior, but this bill does not do that.
In our opinion, it does not.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker,
Mr. Toth, for what purpose?
does the gentleman yield for a question?
Gentleman yield for questions.
Yes, I yield for questions.
Representative, thanks for all you're doing to shed light on this. A couple years ago, I had a tree fall on my business, and it punched a hole in the roof, and I found a young guy to come out, climb up on a ladder, and patch that hole. He charged me $600. What law would he have broken now, according to this deal? It's just general handyman that came over and saved my business from a lot of damage in the garage.
Yeah, according to this, he would be violating the provisions of not signing up as a re-roofer, as the new definition that is created under this bill. And so now he would be faced with fines based on the lack of failing to register as a re-roofer.
What fines would he face?
It depends on the amounts, obviously, but strict, and obviously an individual, as you pointed out in your
So is it even determined, is it even spelled out in this bill what fines that young man would face?
Not as I understand it, but I think
Isn't it true that they can impose their own fines once we leave here at the end of May? Isn't it true that once this is in place, they can go and create their own fines?
That's my understanding of the bill.
Correct.
And again, the concern I have is that it's overreaching and it's really not targeting the focus or the issue that is at hand.
That's what they did to my industry in 2009. The state of Texas licensed it, and then they said the license is no good on anything except residential, and so commercial, it became more expensive. So thanks for your testimony on this.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Shaefer in opposition.
Mr. Speaker, members, I care a lot about this because this takes me back to my own life experiences. And I want to point out I want to make 3 points. One, that slick guy with the clipboard that comes to the door to sell this, that's going to defraud that person, is specifically exempt by the bill on bottom of page 2, section 6. Because he's not swinging a hammer. He's the salesman. The slick salesman is exempt from this bill. Doesn't help what you think it's going to help. Second of all, this bill prohibits anybody from getting a permit at the city unless they're registered. So a tree falls on your house and your handyman who's helped you over the years is going to come over and it's going to cost a little more than $500, and the handyman goes down to City Hall and says, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to do this on the roof. I need a permit. You can't have a permit. What do you mean I can't have a permit? I've been doing this for years. I'm not a member of any association. I don't even know what's happening here. Thousands upon thousands of Texans are covered by this, and they don't even know what's headed their way. And I'm going to make the last point. I grew up poor, and I started manual labor from the time I was 14. And I hung out with men who ran their business with a spiral notebook in the front seat of their pickup truck. They didn't have HR departments. They didn't have secretaries. They didn't pay dues to an association to keep them up on the rules. And my older brother went to work for a roofer. And he was pretty smart and he's pretty skilled himself. And after about a year, he learned what was going on. And so he said, Matt, we can go do some of this ourselves and we can make some money for our family. Because we had to buy our own clothes. And so my brother went to work and bid some houses in town, and he hired his younger brother to carry the shingles and learn from him. And I guarantee you we didn't have $250 and we didn't know anything what had happened in Austin, Texas. But we were doing right by people, we were working our neighborhood, and we were just trying to get by. We didn't cheat people, and we didn't need the government to come tell us what we were doing. If someone is intent on defrauding and deceiving, none of the paperwork we do down here is going to matter. That's a law enforcement issue. We need to get our DAs to do something. Members, let's vote against this bill.
Chair recognizes Dr. The question occurs in the passage to engrossment of HB 2101. A record vote has been requested by Mr. Shaefer. A record vote is granted. The clerk will ring the bell. Show Mr. Capriglione voting aye. Show Mr. Romero voting nay. Show Mr. Hefner voting no. Being 32 ayes, 99 nays, 2 present not voting, the bill fails to pass.